Next episode of the One Piece anime is going to be showing us Akainu versus Kuma, so I figured I'd give you guys my thoughts on what happened in the manga, just in case there are some changes the anime makes. I want to give my assessment. First things first though, if you enjoy the content on the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video to make sure you never miss an upload and always catch the newest content. Also, shout out to the members, Prophet, who's been holding it down for 2 months now, and the new member, Adam. So this is a short encounter, but it is very important for things to come. I think there's a lot of foreshadowing potentially embedded into this interaction. So of course we see that Kuma basically ended up in the Holy Land because he was trying to get to Bonnie, but he couldn't get over the red line, so he had to climb to the top of the Holy Land to then propel himself forward again so he can get to the island that Bonnie is on, which is of course Egghead. So he climbs up there, he's apprehended by these soldiers, and they say they can't stop him, he's unstoppable, they got chains around him, and then Kuma eventually uses Ursa's shock and just blows them all away. Now here's where Akainu shows up. He shows up when the dust settles. Looks really awesome. I was really hoping that the anime would make this really sick. We'll have to see if they do. The preview, I don't know if I'm 100% sold, but he is emerging through the smoke. He says, "What do you think you're doing? First the revolutionaries, the other day, and now this." Of course, he's referencing Sabo's invasion. He says, "You must answer for this historic destruction." Now at this point, we see these soldiers got pretty roughed up, and one of them says, "Fleet Admiral Sakazuki." Now it's unclear if this is the same guy in the next panel, but one of the other soldiers gets stepped on by a celestial dragon, just talking about how these celestial dragons don't even see anybody else as humans or on their level. They just stepped on this guy and says, "These soldiers are worthless. I kind of will have you know the last night I ordered the lobster and they had the gall to tell me they were out." So of course they've never had these issues before, but Sabo and the Revs destroyed a big portion of the food supply. It's not as dire as these guys make it out to be. As they say, this has never happened before. What's become of the food supply, like acting as if they're really going without, they're just going without certain specialty items. But then he changes his tune and says, "That's not the most important thing though right now. I've been brutally injured just now. Hurry up and put that tyrant slave Kuma to death." Obviously this guy wasn't brutally injured, he's fine. Akainu just ignores these people, and I think that this is important because at no point throughout this entire interaction where the celestial dragons are watching the entire time does Akainu ever address them. He never even makes note of them. Okay, you see Akainu staring down Kuma, and he says, "Listen up, Kuma. If we can't maintain control of you, then we certainly cannot afford to have you on the loose where you can be a danger to the public. You lost your free will long ago, I'm told. So if you're no different from a dead man, then where do you think you're going?" He yells and then lunges forward with Hellhound. Of course, this is the same attack that he took off Half-Wipered's face with. Here we saw that Kuma was directly standing in front of him. He was off the knee at this point, and it looks as if Kuma slightly reacted, but reacted too late. So Akainu lunged forward, he landed on Kuma, but it wasn't 100% clean. It looks like Kuma moved his head at the last second. It's very reminiscent of when Luffy got hit by Kaido's Bagua, where it's like Luffy used Future Sight. Obviously he just got one shot in Gear 4 by the same Bagua. This time he tried avoiding it, but he still got hit. This is similar, where it's like Kuma tries dodging it, but he still gets hit by a lot of force, and you see that he starts bleeding profusely. Now initially when we first saw this, a lot of people thought it also took half of his face off, but it didn't seem to be the case when Kuma showed up in Egghead. It just looks like he got his right eye really severely damaged. There's cracks throughout his whole face, and the rest is kind of murky to see. Regardless, Kuma takes a lot of damage, he starts bleeding a lot, and Akainu says, "Well, at least you bleed like a man." Now at this point, Akainu had landed behind Kuma after lunging forward with the Hellhound, which gave Kuma the opportunity to just start sprinting away from Akainu. Obviously, Kuma has no intention of fighting Akainu. We don't actually know the intricate details of what's truly going on within his brain, but we know that it has something to do with the Buccaneer power correlating to love. He has one objective in mind, and that's saving Bonnie, getting to his daughter. So that's his only programming at the moment. He's not thinking about fighting. Obviously he has some survival instinct to try to dodge these attacks and get away from this kind of conflict. He didn't try to use an Ursa shock on Akainu, but he starts sprinting away, and Akainu uses another magma style attack. It looks like almost like a lava plume, where it just coats the ground. And again here, it initially looked as if Kuma was potentially losing his leg here. That was not the case. He slapped himself with his pad cannons and darted away instantly. Now in this moment, it's important to note that of course Akainu has no idea what to expect from this Kuma. He has no idea why he's in the Holy Land. He has no idea what his objective is. He's plagued with curiosity in this moment from the start. When he says, "Where do you think you're going? What are you doing?" And he goes on the initiative like this is going to be a full-scale attack and full-scale fight. that doesn't end up being the case, and obviously Kuma escapes. But this isn't really like a knock on Sakazuki in any capacity. He did a ton of damage to him in a glancing blow, and the guy used his pad cannon to get away. The important thing about this though is what Akainu does after this. He stands there in silence for a second, and he thinks back to the moment when he captured Bonnie when Blackbeard had her. And of course, back then, he made a statement where he said, "A cold shiver ran through me when I heard you ran away from the government, but it's all over now." And Bonnie said, "You will pay for this." Now, we almost get something of a continuation of that scene here, as it seems like she was saying Kuma would come get her, Kuma would come protect her, because Akainu seems to reply to her saying, "Bark all you like, but Kuma's mind will not return to him. He volunteered to be reborn as a weapon of war." Bonnie then screams back, "Liar, he would never choose to do such a thing. He would never leave me behind." This moment is important because it reinforces that curiosity that Akainu has within his mind about Kuma and this whole situation. Obviously, the point of this flashback being shown is that Akainu's thinking of this in this moment. He's thinking of, damn, is he really going to save his daughter? Is he really going to protect his daughter? Was she actually right back then? At that moment, the Celestial Dragons say, "Hey, where did Kuma go? You let him escape, some fleet admiral you are." And Akainu, again, has no acknowledgement of the Celestial Dragons, doesn't reply to them, doesn't even look their direction. He simply says to himself, "Where would you go? A mere puppet with no mind or will left." I think that this is super important because a lot of people thought that that was kind of a representation of Akainu's stature right now, as he is effectively a puppet of the world government without really knowing the truth. There is a moment with the Gorosei where he did seem surprised that they had orders from above even them, but he didn't really react to this in any way. So it's unclear if he knows that there is an entity above or if he knows about Eam specifically. Doesn't seem like he does from that dialogue. All these things are going to be extremely interesting to see play out because Akainu is obviously very resolute in his form of justice. If he does not align with Eam and he does not align with lying to the public and doesn't think that they're representing his justice, he may very well turn against the government in the end. I have a whole video dedicated to that on the channel you can check out here. But also I think that Kuma is a very underrated character in terms of how strong he is. We haven't really got to see him in a proper fight, and this obviously isn't one either. But don't forget, he was able to catch up to Aurelia and Kizaru's fight. He's extremely fast when he uses the pad cannons, and they built the entire pacifista system around him. So I hope one day we do get to see him in a proper fight. That being said, I don't think he stands any lick of a chance against Akainu in any capacity anyway. Obviously, even the glancing strike that Kuma desperately tried to get out of the way of still massively impacted him. Bleeding profusely, you get to see shots of him later, he's all messed up. I think Akainu low diffs this guy, obviously. Akainu's the strongest in the verse, in my opinion. I'm sure you guys know if you guys watch my live streams. Scaling One Piece. Perhaps I'll do a top 10 on the channel, but don't let anybody tell you that this disparages Akainu in any way. It's not really even for power scaling reasons. This is just like for sake of narrative. Pushing things for Akainu later on, pushing things for Kuma, showing us the determination of a buccaneer fighting for love, man. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed the One Piece episode this week, and we'll see what they do. I'm interested to see if any changes are made in the anime, and we got a ton of hype coming with the Kizaru Luffy fight as well. If you want a refresher on that, check out the Kizaru Luffy full fight analysis on the page. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.